backlash over an attempt to limit public access to a school playground. Good evening, I'm Ryan Benazzo. Thank you for joining us. More on that in a moment, but first, Thunder Bay City Council will hold a special vote on Monday night to cancel the plans for a temporary shelter village at Cam River Heritage Park. TBT News has learned the risk management costs for that site are much higher than the city can afford and that it's no longer considered a viable location. City Council voted in favor of the Cam River site in early May with plans to build 80 tiny homes there. But before the vote happened, Council and city staff held a closed-door meeting about an email from CPKC Rail opposing the plans due to safety concerns at that site. Local emergency responders have also expressed opposition to the location right between railroad tracks and the Cam River. Councillor Casey Atraney has tabled a notice of motion to rescind the earlier decision which approved the site. If that vote passes, the city would then likely go back and take another look at some previously rejected sites for the homeless village. Well, the Lakehead Public School Board is facing backlash after sending out a notice to a Cull-Grom-Morgan Public School parents to restrict the use of the play areas. The school says the notice was sent out due to recent safety and supervision challenges for the school's daycare, which stays open until 5:30. But some parents online argue that school grounds are public property and students who aren't in after-school activities should still be allowed to play there. Jessica Clement has the story.
The Lakehead Public School Board recently posted this letter to parents, stating that the Cull-Grom-Morgan Public School property is not for public use until later on in the evening. The letter says the school grounds remain in use for educational and childcare purposes until 5:30 p.m. and advises all students and families leave the property immediately following the dismissal bell unless as part of a school-sanctioned event. The letter adds that despite previous communications, staff have observed ongoing instances of families remaining on school property and refusing to leave even after being asked.
So what we've asked is that the playground be for school sanctioned activities until 5:30. And that again is just to address some of the safety and supervision challenges that we were facing.
The letter has received backlash from parents online, with one Facebook post stating that this is a major shift from the school's long-standing tradition of after-school play, and arguing that school grounds are public property. Superintendent Heather Harris says keeping students and staff safe, along with providing adequate supervision, is their top priority at all times.
It's not uncommon, I think, that for schools and school communities to work out, appropriate use of school facilities, and I think it's something that we can work out in a positive way that ensures that we're meeting our obligations for safety and supervision, and also addressing the needs of the community.
Harris mentions the board intends to revisit the issue with Grom-Morgan in the fall, just to make sure the measures in place meets the needs of the community. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Work continues to four-lane the TransCanada Highway between Thunder Bay and Nipigon. Construction on 2 new sections, including one near Herkett that was scheduled to open to traffic this summer, is getting closer to being finished. Jonathan Wilson has the details.
Back in 2022, Taranis Contracting was awarded the $43 million contract for a 6.5-kilometer section of highway twinning between Coughlin Road and Highway 582. The work was originally planned to be done by the end of 2024, but then late last year, the MTO extended the completion date to July 2025. TBT News reached out to the ministry for an update this week, but no response was given as to when the new 4-lane highway will open. The MTO will only say that Taranis continues working on culvert replacements, embankment construction, paving, and lighting on that section. Meanwhile, Terra North Construction continues to work on a 14.4-kilometer section of 4-laning between Highway 587 and Pearl Lake. That $107 million contract was awarded in early 2022. The MTO says the project is expected to be completed in late 2026. Once both new sections open, nearly 80 kilometers of the highway to Nipigon will be 4-laned, with the remaining 28 kilometers currently in the design phase. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
An area wildlife rescue received a lot of help this month. The Nipigon Bear Cub Rescue is one of many across the province to benefit from a massive donation of food from Pet Value. Justin Hardy has the story.
Baby black bears like this one could not survive by themselves out in the wild. They're much too young to take care of themselves and protect themselves from danger. These bears' only skill is to climb a tree at the first sign of trouble. That's why when young cubs are orphaned, the Ministry of Natural Resources brings them to places like the Nipigon Bear Cub Rescue, located just outside of the town. The rescue has been in operation for over 20 years and run purely on volunteered time by Dave and Wendy Traintinger. They're currently taking care of 4 very young cubs. Ontario Wildlife Rescue Director Sandy Donald says that they do a wonderful job, especially with the amount of time it takes for bear cubs to be ready to be on their own.
Dave and his wife, they operate Nipigon Bears, which is just basically the two of them. They get in bear cubs from all over the place, especially from North Ontario. They will drop them off to Dave and his wife. When it takes about, a bear cub leaves the mother after about a year and a half.
The biggest expense with taking care of bears is the large amount of food required to keep them fed and healthy. That's why when Pet Value made a roughly 22 tons of food donation to Ontario Wildlife Rescue, Donald made sure that Nipigon Bear Cub Rescue got its share.
The largest donation we've ever received at once. And it does make a difference for the wildlife, quite literally. It makes a difference on how many animals they can look after. Because if they have all the expenses of food, everything like that, and wildlife rescue centers are licensed by the Ministry of Natural Resources. Most are run by volunteers, and politely put, they operate on a shoestring.
These bears will likely remain with Nipigon Bear Cub Rescue until roughly next spring when they're big enough to go out on their own. At that point, they'll be released somewhere in Northern Ontario. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
The Thunder Bay Community Tennis Center began its 24-hour tennis fundraiser at 9 o'clock this morning to help pay for the new tennis bubble. Organizers hope the big project will be finished in September, but they need that extra help from the community. Brendan Miller has more.
Summer weather has arrived at the Thunder Bay Tennis Center, and the club couldn't have picked a better day to have their 24-hour tennis fundraiser. The event's goal is to collect money for the Tennis Dome project. Though the project is already underway, Director of Tennis Jamie Grieve says they still need some help from the community.
With the construction starting on the Rogers Tennis Dome and the end date set for early September for the manufacturer to come and put up the dome, we just thought it's a good time to get everyone together and get the awareness back out in the community that we're still fundraising for this. I mean, we're still about $500,000 short of our needs, so we're pretty happy that we have a few more sponsors that have recently jumped on.
Reeves said plenty of people showed up in the early morning to take part in the first few hours. Though it has calmed down a bit somewhat, this young tennis club member, McAllister Nemi, told us what he's been getting up to on the court.
The weather is super nice, and I just had exams, so something to do outside of school. The serve monitor, the speed one, and some games over there with the older people, and some hidden with my friends.
We have a social tonight, mixed doubles at 10, a junior tournament at midnight, and then an adult tournament in the wee hours of the morning from 2 to 6.
The Thunder Bay Tennis Club is still about $500,000 short of being able to build a dome. However, they will be playing tennis throughout the night and into the morning, so people can come out and enjoy the fun and all the activities they have as well. Brendan Miller, TBT News.
A senior administrator of the Thunder Bay Police Service Board announced his retirement at the group's monthly meeting this week. Secretary John Hannum is stepping down. Board Chair Karen Machado wished him well in his retirement.
John, we are grateful for everything you have done to support our communities, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, and to strengthen our relationship with our citizens.
Hannum has served the police board for a combined 20 years, both before and after retiring as city clerk in 2019. Hannum also served just over 20 years in the clerk's office, and prior to that, he spent 7 years working in the provincial registrar general's office. After the meeting, Hannum told reporters that he thinks this time retirement is going to stick.
Well, my wife and my family are certainly expecting that I actually retire. No, I'm going to, as I had previously said, spend some time at camp and a little more fishing, a little more hobbies, and we'll see what goes from there. I've worked with the board for 20 years, over both my municipal career when I also was the secretary of the board and then more directly in the last 5 years. And, time to let someone else step in with, fresh ideas, a little more energy perhaps.
Hannum's duties will be picked up by the incoming full-time executive director once that person is hired. The 2025 winners of the TBT Forgood Community Fund have been chosen and were awarded with their prizes this morning. The utility is providing a total of $30,000 to 6 deserving projects across the Northwest. Representatives from the community-driven organizations were at Sherbrooke School to accept their awards, ranging from $2,000 to $10,000. A diverse panel of judges carefully reviewed and scored 59 submissions based on their impact, beneficiaries, feasibility, and budget. One of the $10,000 winning programs, the Wabshka Animki Benesi After School Program, is offering hot meals to approximately 25 Indigenous youth while sharing traditional food teachings. The founder expressed how important this funding is to the program.
This definitely will make a difference because this gives us an opportunity to know that we will be able to start a program in September with our funding, and because as of last week or when we were told that we won this, we weren't sure if we were actually going to be able to start in September because we're just going based on grant after grant kind of thing. So this is definitely giving us a good start to a new year.
At TBT, that's part of our standard is we want to give back to the communities that we serve. So we know that there's always need within the community, and there's also different areas that need a little bit more. So we see that every year with different themes of projects that are submitted. So like I said, just part of being a good neighbor and being part of TBT is continuing to give back to the community.
Since TBT Forgood was first established in 2013, the program has provided nearly $400,000 in funding to support 113 different projects in 25 communities across this region. Let's turn our attention to the weather now. And Fiona, I hear that there is a heat wave in other parts of Ontario, but not here. We were still a little below seasonal, very similar to what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, very similar. We didn't get any of the rain that had been threatening, whereas yesterday we did have a couple showers, but temperature-wise, pretty much a repeat of yesterday. Now, we started off with a low of 8, but warmed up to 18. That is about 4 or 5 degrees below what we should be seeing for this time of year. And part of what kept things so cool is the fact that we were experiencing winds off the lake from the east, 10 to 32 kilometers per hour. But instead of that possible shower, we actually saw more and more sunshine as the day progressed. Now, if we take a look at what's going on across the region, you can see where the heat is. And in fact, despite how warm these numbers are in the mid to high 20s, it's the humidex that tells the story. At this hour in Fort Frances under sunny skies, it feels like 33. As we head further north into Red Lake, 24, but it feels closer to 29, and that's under partly cloudy skies. As we head further eastward, a little bit cooler, but still in the low 20s, and the humidex is actually hovering around 25. That's been under partly to mostly cloudy skies. It's been kind of fluctuating back and forth as you head further north to the region. Along the north shore and eastern shores of Lake Superior, it's also experiencing a little bit cooler air from the lake. So temperatures like Thunder Bay were hovering around 17, 18 Celsius. And then Sault Ste. Marie at 24 currently feels like 29. That's under partly cloudy skies. Now, tonight we will stay within the double digits, just barely, with a low of 10. But all that rain we were seeing kind of floating around Thunder Bay, but not hitting direct on, well, it's looking like we are definitely going to see something because there's about a 70% chance of showers after midnight and a risk of a thunderstorm. Now, the big question is the weekend because a couple of days ago things were looking very, very bleak. It's kind of half and half. So, as I said, there's definitely that rain on the way for tonight, and that will continue into the early morning hours, and then showers will continue to threaten. That's because once the system moves out, there's always the possibility of some more pop-up showers, and that comes with temperatures rising quite sharply, but it also comes with a humidex that's going to make things feel a little bit muggy for the weekend. Ryan, I know you like the warmer temperatures. We too are going to be seeing temperatures in the mid to higher 20s, and the humidex, that's going to be inching up even further. So I'm hoping you're going to like the forecast that I have later on in the newscast, because it's going to be warmer. May not be 100% sunny, but you'll have the heat.
Well, I'll have to take what I can get, and yeah, I may be in the minority when that humidex starts to push up into the 30s. I know some people don't like that, but I certainly do. All right, thanks a lot, Fiona.